Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we will start today this important day of our COP23 meeting with, I believe, great story which we worked on last 2 days, and you will see the video which is also reflect the idea of our Barcelona Convention implementation in our symbol of our COP23 Barcelona Convention meeting. With this, I kindly invite you to listen and to see what we see. It's important, and this the essence and our, I believe, achievement of our meeting. Please.
When the true colors of the sea, the rivers, the forests, and the sky catch the rhythm of the seagrass called Posidonia, you know that you're in Slovenia. And when our common sea gives birth to a tiny fish, we think about every living species whose diversity is our common concern in these times of climate change. Welcome to Slovenia. A green, sustainable country with the biggest surface of Nature 2000 among European Union members, with almost 60% of forests. Slovenia, as an Adriatic country, supports the vision of the Blue Mediterranean. An innovative approach to the ecosystems is the only way to develop a sustainable blue economy in order to improve the lives of people on the shores of the common sea. Many sites and practices in Slovenia were recognized by UNESCO to have universal values, from the Škocjan caves through Lipizzaner horses and beekeeping to the ancient art of dry stonewalling. While the pantheon of the cultural, scientific, and spiritual history of these lands hosts figures like the inventor of the ship propeller, Josef Ressel, architect Max Fabiani, and violin virtuoso Giuseppe Tartini. There is no coincidence that Posidonia seagrass is the symbol of this year's Barcelona Convention meeting of the contracting parties. Posidonia is not only beautiful in its melancholic waving, its silent symphony is also the lungs of the Adriatic. In Slovenia, we highly respect its role in the ecosystem, and we actively fight for its existence. Let us check a few more battlefields. Or, how do we navigate from declaration to action? We were able to transform a wasteland into a protected area, a busy coastal road into a green corridor, and to harvest the salt from the sea, mixing the green and the blue on the palette of a smart Mediterranean future. And here we are now, in Portorož, creating COP23 together. We know why. To move from plans and programs to tangible actions for a successful and sustainable Mediterranean. And we know how. COP23 success will not be measured by the number of words, but by the impact of actions and changes, incited by our decisions and commitments. Let us listen to Posidonia. Let us create the Green and Blue Symphony. Let us create a sustainable future together. Or, as we like to say in Slovenia, there's no green solution without blue wisdom.
So, this is thank you very much, the essence of our work and I would say achievements of last 2 days. And now I do have honor to announce our State Secretary, Ms. Natasha Kusiper, to address us. Please, the floor is yours.
Excellencies, Slovenian Prime Minister, Dr. Robert Golob, dear ministers, ladies and gentlemen. Please allow me to greet you once again, this time also in the name of our Minister for Natural Resources and Spatial Planning, Mrs. Alenka Bratušek. As mentioned yesterday, it was planned for the Minister to come already yesterday for the reception and to join us today to speak some words to you. Unfortunately, as is often happens in this time of year, the Madam Minister has fallen ill. So she asked me to bring you her best regards and to read the words she prepared for this occasion. When you search the horizon, just outside this hotel, you can see two neighboring countries across the sea. This is the connecting role of our Adriatic Sea. However, if we widen our horizon across the Mediterranean, three continents are united by a single sea. So even when we are solving our domestic, maybe local problems, we should be aware of the complexity of the world around us. A very dense network of rivers and the highest percentage of forests in the whole of Europe, as beautifully shown in the movie we just watched, make us in Slovenia a competent partner in the debate for both blue and green future. However, as all around the world, climate changes and the transforming of water regimes and dramatically changing of forest gives us a lot of problems. Last year's forest in Slovenia at the karst region and this year's floods, the worst in our history, are two warnings that have proved, even to the greatest skeptics, I hope, how dramatically our planet is changing and how fast. Heavy rain with avalanches has not only threatened the lives of people, but also changed the direction of rivers, while floods have destroyed whole settlements, factories, and important infrastructure. An estimated 10 billion euros of damage show the scale of the catastrophe. How do we cope with this? First of all, initially, of course, our government assisted people in need, providing them security, help they needed, and aid in finding new homes. Further, when planning urgent works, and especially future development, we must take into account the impact of climate changes, both in strongly transformed river management and in frequent periods of drought. We see a safer future in more pragmatic use of green and blue corridors in spatial planning to increase the climate resistance of river basins and seashores. Together with establishing blue water corridors, we are also developing green corridors, also for better ecological connectivity. By doing so, we can improve water, food and energy security on local, national, cross-border and regional levels. This is the main reason why Slovenia is so active and so actively promoting the introduction of blue and green corridors as also with the logo of our conference. We are promoting it within the framework of a bilateral and multilateral commissions on water, as well as the Barcelona Convention, the Convention on the Protection of the Danube River, and in all EU strategies. Please let me list some of the recent successes. The result of cross-border cooperation is a transboundary biosphere reserve called Mura-Drava-Donava. In the basin of the Sava River, a whole network of protected areas has been established, together with an efficient flood protection system. Together with Italy, we have developed a cross-border system for flood risk reduction and connected it with a smart coastal management system and maritime spatial planning. Within the framework of the Barcelona Convention and the US Air, we are developing blue and green corridors across the Adriatic and Ionian ecoregion. For an efficient response to all the challenges that the future is bringing, both globally and to our Mediterranean, we still need to do more in terms of cross-border and regional cooperation by including professionals and their knowledge, and especially younger generation in the whole of decision-making process. To this we have explicitly committed in the Portorož Declaration, for which I want to thank you all again. The level of commitments is the best forecast for Slovenia and for our presidency to the Barcelona Conventions, because we do not intend to be conventional, but rather really move from words to actions. This is what our people and the times we are in demand from us. And please, for the end, allow me to speak in my own name. As mentioned, let us not be afraid of the scale of challenges in front of us. In Slovene language, scale, scala, means rocks. And climbing rocks give us a better view what lies ahead of us. In the field of climate changes, we can already see or at least sense what lies in front of us. But dear friends, whatever the future and the climate changes will bring, we should be, and I know we will be, ready for it. So, sincerely thanks to all of you for the effort at this conference and also before. Many, many thanks to my colleagues from the ministry. A special thank to Mrs. Hema and her team at the Secretariat. And I wish you a very successful last 2 days of the conference. And I'm totally convinced that this good work and the future will bring us even closer together. Thank you.
Thank you to our State Secretary. And with this, I would like to invite Ms. Elizabeth Maruma Mrema, Deputy Director of UNEP. Please, Madam, the floor is yours.
His Excellency, Mr. Robert Golob, Prime Minister of the Republic of Slovenia, Her Excellency, Madam Masha Kospel, State Secretary in the Cabinet of the Prime Minister, Republic of Slovenia, our dear Co-President, Mr. Mitja Brešel, Madam Tatia Hema, our UNEP MAP Coordinator, distinguished ministers present, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. Good morning to you all. Let me begin with the words of the celebrated naturalist, Sir David Attenborough, who called the Mediterranean the first Eden. It has a special place in the human history as a nexus between 3 continents, an early superhighway of trade and cultural exchange. It is also a region, like everywhere on Earth, that is facing the triple planetary crisis of biodiversity, nature loss, pollution and waste, and climate change. For 50 years, the Regional Seas Program has brought together the diverse partners to protect the common waters between them. And leading the way has been the Mediterranean Action Plan, the Barcelona Convention. This robust legal platform, consistently aligned with international law, was the first of the 18 such conventions and plans, of which 14 were established under the United Nations Environment Programme. It is a shining example of how regional governance mechanisms can spur collective action on environmental protection. This convention is as active as ever. Recent successes include the Regional Plan of Marine Litter Management in the Mediterranean, which is the world's first such legally binding framework and a model for other regions, especially in the light of the much anticipated global treaty on plastic pollution, which will include marine pollution. Large new marine protected areas have recently been created, particularly by Algeria, Libya, and Albania. And just last year, the International Maritime Organization brokered a deal to significantly reduce air pollution from shipping in the entire Mediterranean region. We implore parties to this convention to redouble efforts to meet the 2050 goal of net zero shipping emissions. I'm delighted to observe a strong commitment from the parties involved in the Barcelona Convention and the Mediterranean Action Plan towards the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. And I do encourage by plans for action to ensure that indeed by 2030, at least 30% of the coastal and marine areas will be effectively conserved and managed. Recently, the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea on the conservation and sustainable use of marine biodiversity of areas beyond national jurisdiction was adopted by consensus and is currently in the process of being ratified by your governments. The significance of this convention, along with the Mediterranean Action Plan, cannot be overstated in terms of bringing it into force. But distinguished delegates, more needs to be done. The UN Environment Programme's report on the state of environment and development in the Mediterranean has warned us that unless urgent and resolute actions is taken to halt current trends, environmental degradation could have serious and lasting consequences for the human health and livelihood in the region. We urge the convention parties to put a stop to the degradation of the marine and coastal biodiversity by effectively implementing the Mediterranean region's own post-2020 biodiversity framework. We advocate for the regional level implementation of the global framework, also global framework on chemicals management, adopted at the 5th International Conference of Chemicals Management in September this year. UN Environment Programme remains resolute as a steadfast partner in the pursuit of sustainable ocean governance. We are dedicated to supporting member states to achieve shared objectives for people and planet. We urge all stakeholders, parties, governments, civil society, and society as a whole to raise our ambition and accelerate our actions at global, regional, and national levels. The solutions lie within reach. We have to reduce the threats to biodiversity. We must meet the people's needs sustainably and equitably. And we must stop subsidizing harmful industries and activities. Ahead of our next UN Environment Assembly to be held in Nairobi, Kenya, from 24th February next year to 1st March, as well as the UN Ocean Conference to be held in 2025 in this region, in Nice, France. Let us all harness this global momentum and strengthen our commitment to preserving our dear Mediterranean Sea and all of our precious ocean for the present and future generations. Thank you very much.
I would like to thank Madam Director. And with this, I do have the honor to invite Prime Minister Robert Golob to address us with his speech.
Spoštovane udeleženke in udeleženci, 23. zasedanja držav članic podpisnic Barcelonske konvencije. Dobrodošli v Sloveniji. Posebno čast mi je, da danes lahko pozdravim vseh 21 predstavnikov. Don't worry, I'll switch to English any minute. This is for Slovenian audience. Da lahko predstavim vseh 21 predstavnic držav, tako pomembne konvencije za zaščito morja in pa predvsem zaščito obal Sredozemskega morja. Slovenija je ponosna podpisnica konvencije in upam si trditi ena vodilnih članic na tem področju in ima tudi mojo podporo in zavezo, da bo pri tem tudi tako ostalo. Excellencies, dear guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'm particularly proud to be here today, addressing you, for many reasons. I'm also very glad to hear of all of your achievements in the past few days, and for that, I congratulate you. But I'm also proud to be here and honored to be here because of my own personal view on the natural protection, on the biodiversity protection. Being a true Slovenian, as you could see in the video that was shown at the beginning, being a true Slovenian, a nature conservation is something that we have in our DNA. This is not what just we speak about, this is what we live. And this is also one of the areas where I, as Prime Minister, want to make major breakthroughs, also on the national level. It's not always easy, so don't be afraid of pushing the topic in your own country. Even if one of you become Prime Minister, it's still going to be hard. But nevertheless, it is one topic where all the efforts are really first necessary, but then once achieved, they also give you back a meaning to your political career. So whatever the obstacles, keep pushing. That's my personal message to you before I revert to the official speech that I have to deliver to you. Many things have already been said, so I'll try not to repeat same stories, but again, it is welcome here on the shores of the North Adriatic, where the Mediterranean reaches the deepest in the heart of Europe. Having this particular position in the North Adriatic, it is a favorable position, but it is also a position where many interests collide. It is not just the sea meeting the land, or the mountains, or the rivers. It is also the position where the ships from all over the world are coming to our ports of the region, which are many. It's not just Koper or Trieste, it is Rijeka and Venice. But it is also the place from where the railways, the roads, and the pipelines lead to the heart of Europe. Including tourism, which is really, with the Mediterranean being the most visited region of the world. Including tourism, that brings a lot of pressure on our nature. And it is something which we never need to forget. The pressure is here. So we need to do our utmost to alleviate it, to control it, to manage it. And I believe you, and this, not just this meeting, but the Barcelona Convention, is the perfect spot where to address these issues. So working regionally and then providing a global example is something which you do very, very well and which you need to continue to do in the future. When we talk about the triple crisis, which was already mentioned before, loss of biodiversity, pollution, water pollution, air pollution, but also climate change. This is sometimes, especially politicians, we believe this is something for the far future, which is unfortunately not the case anymore. And I can witness that in Slovenia, even though we are a small gem of nature, that didn't protect us from the droughts and fires last year or the floods this year. The point is the climate change is all present. It's a global, and it can hit everywhere. Doesn't matter what you do locally, unless we do act globally, the climate change is going to hit us all. It's just a matter of when and how. So we need to get ready and not just trying to alleviate the pressure and lower the temperatures, but we need to get ready to, unfortunately, become more climate resilient in the future. And Mediterranean as an area, it was hit most this year. The floods were not in Slovenia alone. There was drought in Spain, there was floods in Greece and fires, and there was, unfortunately, a catastrophe in Libya when it comes to floods as well. So it is one common topic that connects us all. Unfortunately, it is not a positive topic, but nevertheless, sometimes that's what we need as humanity to act. We need to be hit hard, and then we come to a conclusion that unless we do something, it's going to get harder in the future. Unfortunately, Mediterranean right now is also facing a human catastrophe in Middle East. So this is also something that connects us all. But this is also something that we need to address. And what we witness now in Gaza, it's not just a humanitarian crisis. So I will cite Secretary General of United Nations, we must not look away because it is a crisis of humanity. And we need to act immediately. The international community shall do its utmost to bring immediate, not just ceasefire, but the immediate end of the combat, end of the attacks on the civilian population. But we also need to look further. We need to look for a political solution. We advocate the two-state solution as the only way how to bring peace, not just to the Middle East, but also bring security to the people of Palestine. And we will do our best to come to that solution in the future. At the same time, we also need to take care of the food, energy, climate, security all over the region of Mediterranean. And for that particular reason, it is no coincidence that the younger generation has been included in your work. And that's really the only way how we can address these important security issues for the future. And I congratulate all the young faces. I hope they are not only at the back, but also in the middle, in order to really not just bring their ideas forth, but also that because them is those who will have to implement whatever we decide right here. I also want to commend Cyprus for their initiatives on bringing together the ministries for education and environment together, and how to implement and how to integrate, the two very important areas, education and environment. Again, we have to bring that into our DNA all over the world, really, not just the region. Slovenia is proud to take over the presidency of Barcelona Convention for many reasons. It is also because we are very proud on our water diplomacy. And in that regard, we are also honored, and we would like to specifically mention our work on integrating the program of cooperation of Danube, Black Sea and Mediterranean, how to integrate the two very, very important regions, Danube region and Mediterranean region, into one. Because as I said before, when it comes to environment, there are no boundaries. The environment is one, and that is our planet environment. And we have to really act. We have to act regionally, but think globally, and this is the best way how to really demonstrate that. Excellencies, during the COP22 in Antalya, you supported really a groundbreaking decision on the designation of the Mediterranean as a sulfur oxides, okay, being banned from the region. I think this is a very, very important message that you are all sending also to Dubai participants. Because unless we remove the fossil fuels from every and each area of our living, there is no efficient strategy how to deal with the climate change. It is not only about energy, it is about all aspects of life. There are many regions in the world facing different sources of climate pollution, but nevertheless, fossil fuels are at the heart of it. And by implementing the sulfur oxide control, that is a very important step how to, also a role model for the other regions, how to proceed in the maritime transport in this regard. As I said many times already, cooperation on global level is essential, and for that reason, while Slovenia was successful in its candidacy for the United Nations Security Council, I can already now state that once we take over with the January 1st of next year, water diplomacy and climate change is going to be at the core of our actions within the United Nations. Being a small country, we can perhaps push forward some agenda which is not as present when it comes to the global superpowers, but it is something that is closer to our hearts. And I believe in that regard, you will be proud of what Slovenia is going to advocate in the next 2 years. And moreover, is going to be totally in line with what you are advocating here and now. And for that regard, let me express my thanks to our esteemed colleague, Mitja Bricel, who is really soul and power of this efforts in Slovenia as well. I also understand that you are very, very successful in working on the Portorož Declaration, which is going to be hopefully agreed upon in the afternoon and signed by the ministers. And for that, I congratulate you. And as I said before, this is something which we really owe to our children, but we owe it also to our common history, not just common future. And this is something that has been going on for millennia, from Athens to Rome, from Barcelona to Beirut, from Antalya to Portorož, and onwards to Egypt. And to conclude, good luck to all of you. Have even more fruitful work in the future days, and good luck to all of the Mediterranean.
Thank you very much to Prime Minister for, I believe, very concrete message for our future. And with this, I would like to invite the director, the coordinator of UNEP MAP, Ms. Tatiana Hema. The floor is yours.